Hi there, Josh here with USI Tech Legal Claims. This is our second video on USI Tech's closure and ceasing of business in the United States and Canada. First and foremost, thank you so much for all the response and the interest that we've received in the first video that we posted and the website that we put up and the services that we're offering in conjunction with those things related to USI Tech leaving the US and Canada. A lot of concerned people out there. In the second video, I decided, who likes a talking head? So you get to see a nice professional picture of me there and hear my voice. If you want to see me on camera, go to the first video. We might bounce back and forth between the two formats or settle on something at a later point in time. So this, as I said, is the second video related to these issues. And I've got some new information and some new documents and some various different things that I'm going to cover in this video. First thing I'm going to do is we are going to go over USI Tech's, certain aspects of USI Tech's announcement when they canceled all U.S. and Canadian distributorships. Going to go over some of the key points in that, talk about that, and then I've got some further information and whatnot. Probably many of you have been hearing similar things or similar types of things or similar hopes and whatnot in relation to all of this relevant to the United States and Canada in what might or may or whatever be happening with USI Tech coming up here in the future. So we'll just move right on into it. Again, I'm not going to be on camera, and this video is going to spend most of its time actually viewing my screen so that we can go over some of those documents and I can highlight things for you and show things to you as I talk. So we will transition into that at this moment. Okay, and we are back. I'm prepared now to move forward with the screen shots and the various things I'm going to talk about while you follow along in documents and communications that I've received from various sources to go over. So the first thing, like I said, that we're going to go over is the actual notice that was sent out by USI Tech just days ago, terminating, summarily and extraordinarily terminating all American and Canadian, North American distributorships for USI Tech. So that's here. It's not in the original format, obviously, which was HTML coded into the back office for USI Tech. But this is nonetheless the notice that was sent out to every US and Canadian distributor terminating their account and contract with USI Tech. And I'm just going to go through these. I've bolded and underlined and highlighted the specific provisions that I'm going to cover here. Not going to read this whole thing verbatim and going to try and do this video quickly for you so you don't have to spend too much time watching this video, trying to be succinct. So the first part of this that I have highlighted reads, we were utterly dismayed to learn that a large number of our sales partners extensively advertise our services on their own websites as well as on social media in a manner which is a breach of contract as well as illegal, and which gives the appearance that our service portfolio violates both U.S. and Canadian law. This first provision or sentence here is very, very important, along with other similar statements later on in this notice, because it represents, it constitutes an acknowledgement, a trigger by USI Tech itself from the ownership and from the company itself that USI Tech is acknowledging and stating that there are illegal and criminal issues going on here. Undoubtedly, they're trying to point to, and they do later on, to people who are doing these advertising activities, whether or not the company knew about that. But this is an acknowledgement, along with other statements in this document, that there is legal action, criminal legal action, and illegal activity going on in relation to these things, which is very, very important, which I'll discuss a little bit later. Generally, though, the company is here expressing utter dismay and surprise. However, I think it's well known that USI Tech, its owners, and the company itself at the very top knew that people were extensively marketing on YouTube and other social media, with the owners even participating in many YouTube videos and various recordings and things, presentations that were recorded for the purpose of putting on YouTube and putting in social media. But that's something that the various powers that be will have to figure out, and that the company will have to figure out, and that the owners will have to figure out. I assume that the owners of the company, felt and believed that they were acting just fine, but now they're claiming in this notice that they had no idea, basically, that this was being done. Though there's video after video after video of the owners sitting down for the purpose of recording videos with various different high-level distributors in America, American distributors, very high-level distributors in the United States and in Canada for USI Tech. The next provision, this behavior has even intensified in recent weeks and months. Don't know if that's true, but from everything that I'm aware of, that kind of advertising has been prevalent ever since USI Tech hit U.S. soil. So that's kind of an interesting comment for the company to state in this notice. The next provision or sentence that I'm going to talk about reads, this has already resulted in actions by the respective authorities against various distributors, as well as the first preliminary injunctions. I would also add that preliminary injunction and those actions were directly against the company, not just those distributors mentioned here. Dropping down to the next portion, the company states very simply here that this has created a legally problematic situation. Again, this is an acknowledgement of legal problems. And throughout this notice, it mentions illegal and criminal type actions, let alone civil. And obviously, criminal concerns are much more dire than civil. Next provision. This is due to the fact that in the event of any doubt, it cannot be ruled out that this illegal advertising by the distributors involved will cause the relevant authorities to suspect that our company itself is promoting this type of advertising activity, or at least tolerates it. So again, this is an acknowledgement just by use of the word illegal there. Whether they intended to acknowledge or not, they've now acknowledged that there are legal proceedings in the criminal realm of things, which means that there is active criminal action, or at very least, everyone is on notice that there is potential criminal action related to USI Tech and its distributors with relation to the company's products and services in the United States and in Canada. Goes on to state, consequently, we have decided to immediately discontinue our business activities as well as our sales in US and Canada. Everybody's aware of that. It's a definitive statement, though, that relates to some of the communications that I'm going to go over a little bit later in this video. This is a definitive statement. It's not wishy-washy. Some of the things that I've received, some of the information I've received, kind of hopeful information, would seem to go very diametrically opposed and contrary to this statement, which is a very firm statement. Going down to the next statement, effective immediately, we hereby summarily cancel the existing contractual relationship with you as a distributor, or alternatively, hereby notify you of ordinary termination as of the next possible date. So again, very definitive statements. They are cutting this off. Cold turkey. No middle ground here. Okay? Which again seems to go contrary to some of the things that I'll talk about later in this video. Next sentence that I want to cover. You may no longer market goods, software, or other services to our customers. In that paragraph, USI Tech is very, very clearly, definitively telling people, cease and desist all of your action in the United States and Canada. Within the groups that I'm aware of, this really has not happened. People are still holding calls under the auspices of conducting their business outside the United States. But the fact of the matter is, if you're on U.S. soil, if you're in the United States and you're doing this, you're still subject to U.S. Securities and Exchange laws, primarily the Securities and Exchange Act of 1933 and 1934, which equally applies to every individual in the United States, not just companies, not just exchanges, not just groups or organizations or corporations that sell securities or sell things that look like securities. Every individual in the United States is required by the Securities and Exchange Act of 1933 and 1934 to comply with those laws with regard to securities. And the company is definitively here stating you may no longer market the goods. Again, this isn't happening. In deciding how to govern yourselves accordingly and protecting yourself, you need to be aware of this. Now, likely for anyone that's not a big fish within USI Tech, there's a good chance that someone like that won't get wrapped up too much in all of this when authorities come calling, but that cannot be guaranteed. If there's a violation of law and if government authorities decide they want to pursue something, if there's been a violation of law or seems to be a violation of law and all they have to have is probable cause to proceed in criminal matters, they don't have to prove that something was actually done illegal. They only have to have a probable cause, or I would say in layman's terms, a good reason to believe that something criminal has occurred. And that's enough for them to proceed. And with the SEC, they can actually probably investigate with even less than probable cause. But the company is being very clear here, very definitive. You may no longer market goods, software, or other services to our customers. Next portion here. We would also like to point out that as a result of the above termination, effective immediately, you must destroy and or take offline all websites, landing pages, social media sites, chat groups, example, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, or other online or offline advertising material relating to direct sales of our goods, software, other services, and or our direct sales concept. The next two paragraphs there were part of this whole thing here was part of one paragraph, but I've parsed it out for easier viewing. So again, they are saying, effective immediately, you got to cease and desist. Not only that, they are asking you to get rid of all this stuff, shut down all your accounts, websites, pull all the content down. Now, this is problematic. This is problematic because of this. The legal concept that is long rooted in our legal system of spoliation of evidence. And I know Wikipedia is not the most professional source, but this article cites to the professional sources. And this article is easily accessible to anyone that wants to look at it. So the spoliation of evidence is the intentional, reckless, or negligent withholding, hiding, altering, fabricating, or destroying of evidence relevant to any legal proceedings. Right here, this citation cites to Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition, right here, 2004, okay, which is an authoritative source. It's not law. Black's Law Dictionary is not law. It's not a statute. It's not a common law from England. It's not a common law in the United States. However, courts of law regularly take judicial notice, and I'll explain that in a second here, judicial notice of certain legal definitions of things in criminal cases and in civil cases all the time. Taking judicial notice means that the court puts into evidence, accepts into evidence, a fact that is so clear that no one can dispute it. For example, a court could take judicial notice, if it was relevant to a case, that oftentimes the sky is blue or appears blue. Or a court could take judicial notice that on a specific date within a specific newspaper, a specific article was published, and that specific article contained specific words or sentences strung together in a specific way to create certain words and phrases and sentences, okay? Not necessarily the meaning, because that takes interpretation, but just the fact that on a certain date, a certain newspaper published a certain article which said certain specific exact things. No one can dispute that because it's in the paper. It's a published record, and so courts can take that kind of thing and to take judicial notice of those kinds of things, and then it becomes part of the evidence in the case. So Black's Law Dictionary. Courts will sometimes, oftentimes, if need be, if it's relevant to a case, take judicial notice of the definition of certain legal terms of art when interpreting the use of those legal terms of art in statutes or in various different contexts, contracts or whatever. So spoliation of evidence is the intentional, reckless, or, and here's the disconcerting term, negligent withholding, hiding, altering, or fabricating or destroying of evidence relevant to a legal proceeding. Those are catch-alls. Any kind of changing, altering, taking down a website, taking down YouTube videos, even just taking them down, arguably, could be considered altering or hiding, so that other people and law enforcement agencies can't find them or use them. And that's disconcerting because the company has now, it's especially disconcerting because the company, it's in its own notice, which triggered all of the stuff that's going on now, in its own notice very clearly and many times in several instances and several statements, used the words illegal and criminal. And those things pertain not only to those two distributors in Texas, but also actually to the company as a whole, as far as the Texas SEC is concerned, and the documents that they filed. Okay. Not only that, but this article goes on, and it's true, to explain that there are criminal penalties for spoliation of evidence, as well as civil penalties. Someone can sue you or sue anyone for spoiling evidence, for destroying evidence or hiding evidence or altering evidence. So that there can be civil lawsuits and things in relation to that. So in a business like this, where you have a lot of upline and downline, who knows what kinds of legal claims, depending on what the company does and how things pan out, who knows what kinds of things can occur. So just be aware of, I do have a concern about spoliation of evidence when the company is requesting that people take stuff down, alter it, hide it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just be aware of that. Find an attorney, talk to an attorney, find out what you need to do, what you should do, what you should not do. My argument here would be your accounts are already terminated. All U.S. and Canadian distributorships and contracts are already terminated. And certainly complying with criminal law is always, and staying out of the crosshairs of the government with regard to criminal laws is always takes precedent over something like this of a contractual nature, where a company is announcing a policy or procedure. You want to follow criminal law before you follow a company policy or procedure, certainly. Going on to the next sentence there. At the same time, you are obligated to immediately discontinue or cancel all current advertising and or planned advertising, promotional events, or other promotional efforts for our company. Again, I'm not seeing that in the groups that I'm aware of within USI Tech. They're still holding calls and doing things. So just be aware of that. The company has unequivocally told you stop. And we've seen with the two Texas reps what the company will do, because it's legally expedient for them to do it. If I were their attorney, I'd advise them to do the exact same thing. What they will do if they find violations of their policies and procedures and their terms and conditions and what they have told you to do. And they are here very, very clearly and unambiguously saying stop. In addition, you must immediately terminate or discontinue the use of any registered internet domain names, social media accounts, WhatsApp groups, or comparable tools, as well as delete the associated login. Again, that deleting associated logins to things really concerns me, because now you really truly are arguably destroying evidence, destroying the ability for you yourself to even get back into your own stuff in the past. So I have a concern about that. And again, I would advise, talk to an attorney, find an attorney, talk to an attorney, tell them the specifics of what's going on, and ask them, a licensed attorney in wherever you need a licensed attorney, what should I do? Very important. Don't just follow these commandments from USI Tech. Comply with law first. Okay, so as well as delete the associated login info and or registrations in as far as these internet domains, social media accounts, WhatsApp groups, or similar tools include our name, trademark, product names, or other characteristics of our company. Okay, that's all I was going to cover, it looks like, with regard to the notice. I'm just scanning this really quick to make sure I didn't miss anything. They talked about offsetting money that they're going to pay out and compliance issues. Okay, that's all I was going to cover with regard to this. Moving on to the new information that I've received about USI Tech and all of these things. So I have redacted names and personally identifying information from these things, scrubbed it. Please don't ask for that information. I won't share it. I don't feel that I have the legal right to identify other people or anything of that nature. But I want to go over this because I think the things in this communication, this email that I received, kind of show some of the the consistent thinking across USI Tech in the United States and in Canada, hopeful thinking that could lead to some problematic issues for people dealing with these issues in America and in Canada with regard to USI Tech. The mantra here is going to be, don't sit on your hands and do nothing, which a lot of these communications kind of seems to be indicating. To just wait and see, don't do anything, hold off. In my mind, that's a really bad idea, and this kind of falls into the category of, when you've got a missing child, there's a certain time frame, a certain window within which you have to find that child before statistics say you're not going to find that person or that child. Same rule applies here. The more time that goes on, the more ability for things to go awry and for the ability to recover, for pressure to let up, and for people to just kind of go off into whatever country they left to. All the owners of USI Tech are not from the United States, they're from outside the United States, and the company itself is registered in Dubai, actually one of the Emirates, close to Dubai actually, and it's virtually impossible to get jurisdiction over such a company in that jurisdiction. That's why companies go to those kinds of places, so that they have those protections. It's legal, but that's why they do it. So going through this now. Again, I'm not going to read everything. I've highlighted the things I want to talk about. I think the most important thing here is I do not know the accuracy of the news and things that I'm about to relay. So take this stuff with a grain of salt. We don't know for certain if these things are accurate or whatever. The following is what I learned from a $1 million earner, I scrubbed the name, after he spoke yesterday morning with founder and owner Ralph Gold. 2 weeks ago, the Texas SEC issued the cease and desist against 2 representatives who were doing misleading and untruthful advertising. At this point, I actually want to cover this a little bit, not from the standpoint of trying to give USI Tech any difficulty, but as you're out there talking about what those USI Tech reps did and whatnot, you need to be concerned about defamation. And I wish USI Tech were maybe a little bit more concerned about that, but again, they're not on U.S. soil. So part of the allegations, at the center of the allegations against those 2 reps was that they were, from the company's standpoint, was that they were violating USI Tech policies and procedures. Because they made claims about the legality of USI Tech, specifically in relation to the FTC, and what the company had said and had not said, and had told or represented to USI Tech promoters that they could say or couldn't say or should say or shouldn't say with regard to USI Tech and the FTC. And that was at the center of these 2 reps in Texas and certain aspects of their advertising. Well, judge for yourself. I'm not going to draw any conclusions about it, but judge for yourself this clip here that I'm going to show you right now from USI Tech about the BTC pack and the coins and USI Tech's products, and specifically in relation to the FTC.
And finally, maybe there's 2 more. Oh yeah, compliance. What's that say? Something about the Federal Trade Commission? What that says is that our lawyers have done all of the research necessary. They have talked to the Federal Trade Commission, and they believe in their legal opinion, which is binding, that USI Tech Limited is a legal network marketing company with their 2 products, the Forex software and the BTC package, in the United States of America.
Okay, so you just watched that video. That's Dan Hunt on stage doing the majority of the talking, and Horst Gicha is up there with him. And you see him, supporting what's being said and kind of rallying the crowd, waving his hands. So judge for yourself. Judge for yourself. But when we talk about two reps who were doing misleading and untruthful advertising, when we or anyone that's external to the company or that was just a promoter, not anyone internal to the company, I guess talk about these two reps. Understand that there have been things that have happened with the company that any relevant authorities will look at and consider about what the company knew, what the company did, and whether or not it was just these two reps and only them. I guess I would have some concern about defaming them or causing their cases to become more difficult. And I am seeing a lot of discussion on social media and various different platforms, emails and whatnot, where this is kind of being repeated over and over again, that these two reps went way out on a limb and did things crazy. Now, yes, they violated the technical terms and conditions of USI Tech's agreements. So there were certain things in black and white with the company, but then there's also what seemed to be acceptable to the company or acceptable practice. I think everybody needs to understand and take that into consideration, that that's a reality. You have the things that are in the black and white document, and then you have practical real life and what seems to be acceptable or not, doesn't seem to be acceptable by a company or by anyone. We see this in life all the time, right? Certain things are put in black and white, and then other things happen. Life happens. So just a caution there, and also a caution to consider these things relevant to your own action and interaction with USI Tech's products and with USI Tech in the United States and in Canada, and what will or could happen to you if you were to find yourself in the crosshairs between any government agencies or investigative law enforcement agencies and the company, and what could happen to you or to anyone else that finds themselves in a similar circumstance. Okay, moving on, the next highlighted portion, the Texas SEC continued to press the issue, saying that, quote, because USI Tech allowed this to happen, the company was equally guilty, triggering what could become a lengthy investigation. Now, bear in mind, again, these numbered items, as I understand it, are things that supposedly Ralph Gold stated to an individual that was then relayed to another individual that was then relayed to me, and now I'm relaying it to you. So for you, this is either, I'd have to sit down and write that out, but it's either fourth or fifth hand information, so understand that. And the beginning of this email and this communication even says, I don't know the truth or the veracity of these things, so we don't know anything, okay? But these numbered items, as I understand it, supposedly, are things that Ralph Gold supposedly said to somebody somewhere. We don't know who, though. Moving on. Number 2, based on past history, first thing the SEC usually does before litigating is freeze everyone's accounts. That's accurate. The SEC has more power than even the IRS. The IRS audits you, sends a bill if you don't pay it. They can freeze a bank account. They can hit a bank account for money. They can take your tax return the following year. They can garnish wages. That's pretty powerful. But the SEC, in comparison, can come in, and typically they do come in, and they take all computers, they take all papers, they take all files, filing cabinets, every piece of paper, every computer. They seize assets. They freeze bank accounts, directly related and indirectly related, because they have to see how you moved money around if they think you did something wrong. And you might be using other accounts or other businesses or phony businesses or whatever. So they freeze everything. They take houses, they take cars, they deprive you of basically all the documents and all the information, electronic and otherwise, the computers and things, to be able to protect yourself, to argue against their case. And they take it all under the auspices of this is part of our investigation. So that comment is very accurate about how the SEC proceeds in these things. So that's another reason to be very cautious and careful while moving forward. Moving on. So to protect our money, USI Tech immediately and voluntarily pulled out of USA and Canada, reduced all of us to customers, no more sales, no marketing, and no commissions, which forced the SEC to terminate any further action. That is a totally inaccurate word or description of how this works or what happened or could happen. No one can force the SEC or a law enforcement agency to cease investigating or to cease action, other than a court of law. If they have reason to believe that they can proceed, they can choose to not proceed, but that does not force them. What this is saying is incorrect. I just want people to be clear about that. It cannot be true that they were forced. They can have chosen, and we don't know that at this point in time. Number 3, everyone, the highlighted portion, everyone I have spoken to feels this was a smart move for which we are all thankful. My concern with this is that this and other statements in this communication and in other communications I've seen really speaks kind of from a leadership level down to downline, to kind of say, everyone just hold on, don't do anything, sit on your hands, be still, be quiet, don't say or do anything, and let's just hope that things pan out and that these problems, go away. Thank you for what you did. Well, they summarily terminated your accounts. USI Tech summarily terminated your accounts under extraordinary circumstances, and also stated that at the earliest date possible that they are ordinarily terminating your contractual agreements and whatnot. By the way, to put those things back in place, because they have now communicated that they have terminated all those things, there would have to be a new agreement put in place. Now, potentially a new agreement could be that your old account comes back into existence, but your old contract is gone. That contract is gone. So the old contract can be reinstated by a new contract, but it's currently gone. Just period, full stop. I would advocate that individuals not just be stick their head in the sand and be thankful and content that USI Tech did this to protect everybody. We don't know their intentions. We don't know their financial solvency and other similar things that I discussed in the first video. And taking action earlier, again, that's the mantra of this video and of other videos that I'll make in the future. The mantra here is take action. Don't bury your head in the sand. That's what will get you in trouble, can get you in more trouble. Number 4, worst case scenario is after the principal and interest have been returned to you over the next 5 to 8 months, depending on the age of your packages, withdraw it to your Bitcoin wallet, wherever that is, where you can write out the price of Bitcoin fluctuations and hopefully double your money this year. So basically, again, kind of trying to placate, saying worst case scenario, you'll get paid out, although the company has been very clear that they will offset for any of you that set up self-directed IRAs and put in retirement investment funds from 401k type accounts into a self-directed IRA, which I know a lot of people were doing. And put that money, because legally you would need to, into a second USI Tech account that was under you yourself. The company has said that they're going to offset any Bitcoin that they owe you or may owe you in relation to harms that they perceive in their sole and exclusive discretion that they will suffer or have suffered because you did that. And in truth, I don't know that really causes any suffering to USI Tech, because the payment and compensation model was 35% commissions paid over 12 levels deep, and there was compression within the model, meaning that if the level right above, if you've got an upline and a downline immediately, a direct upline and a direct downline. So you'd have the direct up, in this case, you'd have the direct upline as the individual, and the direct downline, one of the direct downlines is their own self-directed IRA account. And anytime they buy or rebuy BTC packs, then a commission would actually be paid to themselves in their normal account. Well, even if that commission was not paid to that individual, based on the compression, principle, that commission should have gone somewhere up the upline, and someone should have been received that commission. So I don't understand how the company could suffer if they have compression in the model, where the company is not going to keep that 35% commissions under the model. The company would be paying that out to somebody. It's just a matter of who they'd be paying that out to. And yet the company announced very clearly that we're going to look into these things, and if there are problems, if we see double registrations or personal and then company registrations, or a personal registration and then a self-directed IRA registration within USI Tech, we are going to offset what we owe you based on the harms that we perceive that we are going to suffer or have suffered because of your actions. And and that does not comport with the compression model of the compensation plan, because those commissions would have been paid to somebody, and the company should not have kept that money under the compensation plan. Okay, number 5, currently I am seriously seeking a valid legal way to operate my USI Tech business outside the United States. There are potentially ways to do that. Takes a lot of knowledge and understanding, lot of P's and Q's to be minded, T's to be crossed, and I's to be dotted very, very carefully to not get in trouble. And just as a plug, that is part of the services that we offer, not directly intended through usitechlegalclaims.com, but in our larger legal services and offerings in the law firm. Basically, as I've indicated in the past, working in the realm of investments and cryptocurrency, including cryptocurrency, and when need be, when it's advisable, taking companies or assets or property offshore in a legal manner. And there are ways to possibly operate. There are ways to possibly operate outside the United States legally, but there is a lot involved in that, and a lot of care and attention that must be taken to be able to do that appropriately and legally, and also to not violate company policies and procedures. USI Tech company policies and procedures. Also, one of the things that we're looking at putting together is a negotiation to go to USI Tech and propose certain specific ways for U.S. and Canadian individuals legally and totally and entirely appropriately in relation to U.S. laws, but going to the company, USI Tech, and proposing a way to move forward for people to be able to transition legally and appropriately, not hiding, not doing anything illegal, into offshore operations related to USI Tech. And so that's part of what we're looking at as well, possibly going to USI Tech directly and trying to put together certain specific plans and methods to move forward in doing that. Okay, moving on. Part of me believes, this is a comment I don't believe by Mr. Gold, though it could be. It wasn't clear in the communication I received. I believe that this is the person who I received this from speaking, but I'm not certain, or the person that sent the email to them. Anyway, part of me believes after all this blows over, USI Tech may find a way to reopen in the U.S. under very strict rules such as no advertising of any kind. First of all, no advertising of any kind includes word of mouth. I don't know how you do that. I will tell you this. In the securities and exchange world, in the world of investments, okay, which the SEC governs, lock, stock, and barrel, okay, the rules have been, the laws, rules, and regulations have been very clear for decades, for many, many decades. And in fact, licensed individuals that are licensed to sell securities are not allowed, haven't been allowed for many, many decades to openly, even verbally, in person, indicate that they have certain kinds of investments available. They could make a very vague statement to a group of people or to persons who were qualified investors, very vague, without giving any details, and say something to the effect of, hey, we've got a new offering in our firm. If you're interested, you can come talk to us. No details, no selling, no pitching, no nothing. Bottom line, if you can't advertise, especially even if you can't advertise in word of mouth with some specifics about what it is you're advertising, what you're offering, what is the product offering, what is the investment offering, what is the whatever you want to call it offering. I don't know how you build a business without being able to advertise and talk about it, at very least, to some degree, what it is you're offering and what you're doing. As far as USI Tech being able to reopen the U.S., I don't know about Canada. I'm not a Canadian lawyer, though we have relationships. We are offering services to Canadians. In the U.S. specifically, though, there were problems, and this is addressed below a little bit. There were problems in the Texas SEC documents stated directly in those documents with regard to the product, not just the advertising, not just what those quote-unquote two distributors did, but actually the more in-depth documents filed by the Texas SEC very clearly state in their conclusions of law, in their conclusions of law section, findings of fact and conclusions of law section, in that document that USI Tech's products were and are in fact securities. And they did take issue with the products themselves, not just the advertising and not just the alleged fraud. By the way, fraud in this context, in the context of securities and investments, is not the normal definition of fraud that you are accustomed to, or that laymen are accustomed to outside the securities world. Fraud includes not giving full and fair and complete disclosure to an investor or a potential investor about the nature and character of the investment. So the laws in the United States require that to sell securities and investments, you have to be licensed to sell securities and investments, Series 63 and 65 licenses. The security itself has to be registered or has to meet an exception, and those are very rare, meet an exception to the registration of the security, okay? And then the amount of disclosure that has to be given to a potential investor, which has to be a qualified investor, and the definition of a qualified investor is beyond the scope of this video, but it's not just every Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street, okay? That the disclosures that have to be given to qualified investors are extensive. We call those prospectus documents, where it's very clearly outlined what the nature of the business is going to be, the nature of the investment, how the hoped for return on investment is going to be produced, what the risks are. And those prospectuses, those documents are very, very lengthy and go into just a ton of detail, the type of detail that has never accompanied information from USI Tech exactly about what USI Tech does to make its money, to be able to pay 1% daily return or a little bit below 1% daily return. I'm not criticizing USI Tech for that fact, but when looking at it in comparison to normal securities and exchange and investment issues legal issues in the United States, that kind of information has not been made available from the company to any distributors in the U.S. and in Canada to be able to pass that information along to new potential customers or potential investors in USI Tech or in BTC packs or in tech coins, USI Tech coins. So being able to open back up in the United States, they would have to, unless there is a change in the law, because those laws have been in place for decades and decades and decades, there would have to be a change in the law, or there would have to be a specific carve-out in the law, so that would, again, still be a change in the law. There would have to be a specific carve-out in the law for something like BTC packs or for initial coin offerings. In other words, the types of products that USI Tech has. In order for USI Tech to come back and operate in the United States, either there would have to be a change in the law, or they would have to change the nature of the BTC pack and the tech coin. And how they would have to change that is also beyond the scope of this video, though that could have been possible at an earlier time. But we are where we are now. So I'll be very interested to see, in fact, if USI Tech tries to find a way to reopen in the United States. Though that would surprise me tremendously. So I think it is smart, and again, it's part of the services that we are offering. I think it is smart to try and find ways to operate legally, completely legally, a USI Tech business outside the United States. Okay, I think it's a far cry, a long, long shot to try and for USI Tech to come back and operate with its products the way they are in the United States. And maybe they'll change the nature of the product. Maybe that's what they're looking at doing. We will see. Time will tell. Number 6, in retrospect, USI Tech was not shut down. Yes, they were. Go read the notice. They were shut down in the U.S. They discontinued all services in the U.S., so that statement is completely false. They voluntarily chose to pull out to protect their members' accounts. Yes, they voluntarily chose to pull out, but they shut themselves down. They were shut down. And in fact, they were given a cease and desist by Texas. And so in the sense of someone else shut them down, that's also true. Also, nothing was said that Texas had any problems with our product, but rather it was about misleading advertising. That is not true. Go read the in-depth documents that were filed by the Texas SEC with the court. Read the findings of fact and conclusion of law section, where it talks about the BTC pack and other USI Tech products being securities, being unregistered securities, and people selling them who were not licensed or registered to sell securities. problems all around. They had a problem with the product. They absolutely had a problem with the product, and that is very clear. So that statement is incorrect. If anyone tells you that, you just be aware of that. Thank you, Ralph, Mike, and Horst, for cutting this off when you did. Again, I see that as a statement trying to get people to sit on their hands, not take action, which, as I've already said many times, is not advisable. Take action. Protect your property. Makes us all wonder about, there's a reason I want to cover this. It's not really substantive as to USI Tech directly, but it's more opinion matter, but I think it's relevant to something that should be said here. Makes us all wonder about the abuse of power going on in our government, how one person representing one government organization can greatly affect the financial welfare of hundreds of thousands of families in a heartbeat. The thing that you need to know and understand and realize about this is it's not just one person representing one government agency. Here they are obviously talking about the Texas SEC. There are 51 jurisdictions that enforce securities and exchange and investment laws in the United States, because all 50 states have their own laws with regard to securities and investments, along with the federal government. So you've got 50 states that all have laws and law enforcement agencies, state SECs, Securities and Exchange Commissions. They call them by different names in different states, but they're basically SECs at the state level. And they have all the same powers that the federal government has. A state SEC can come in and seize all your bank accounts, seize all your property, seize your home, seize your car, take all your computers, take all your papers, take everything. The state SECs can do that just right alongside the federal SEC. And all the attorneys that work in all 51 of those jurisdictions in those related matters for the government, for the state SECs or for the federal SEC, they all go to the same conferences. They all get the same training. They all learn the same legal doctrines with regard to securities and investments, and the same legal definitions about what an investment, what a security is, which really what it comes down to relevant to USI Tech is was there or was there not an investment contract? That's really what's in operation here. Go read the SEC, again, go read the SEC, the Texas State SEC documents against USI Tech and against those two distributors, and they go into this definition. There's a famous legal case, federal legal case, that defines investment contracts as securities and further defines, investment contracts are securities, and the definition of investment contracts is rather simple. It's a four-pronged test. You have two people, person A and person B. Person A gives person B money with an expectation in their mind, so that's very subjective, with an expectation in their mind that's been caused to be put in their mind by person B, that they will get a return on their money. Call that return whatever you want. Call it return on investment, call it return on capital. Doesn't matter what terminology you use. They, in their mind, are expecting to get more money back at a future point in time. And then the last prong of the test is that they expect to get that return on investment at a future point in time because of something affirmative that person B or company B, individual B, is going to do. Some managerial function that they're going to exercise, some expertise, some using their knowledge in investing in certain markets or doing certain things. So to be an investment contract, all it takes, and again, all investment contracts are securities, and therefore in the United States they are governed by the SEC laws, by the Securities and Exchange Act of 1933 and 1934, and all investment contracts, that's the key thing here, are securities and therefore are governed by those 51 jurisdictions, the state SECs and the federal SEC. All you have to have is person A giving person B money, person A having and being caused to have had an expectation in their mind of a return on their money. USI Tech as a company very clearly, as we all know, touts that you're going to receive back after roughly approximately 140 working days, 140% of the original amount of money you put in to BTC packs. That creates an expectation of a return, of an increase in money. So person A giving person B money with an expectation in their mind, that's a subjective test. They have an expectation in their mind of receiving more money back in the future because of something that person B is going to do. That's an investment contract. And that legal definition has been in place for decades and decades and has survived court case after court case and battle after battle, and that is the law of the land. Okay? So when this says that one person in one government agency can greatly affect the financial welfare, you need to understand These same principles are operating in all 50 states and at the federal government. Just because not all 50 states have filed something against somebody does not mean that they won't in the future or that they can't. Other states and the feds can be watching what's going on with Texas and see if people take, from their perspective, what I believe would be their perspective, as a warning shot across the bow against the USI Tech as a company, against these two marketers in Texas, promoters in Texas. Will people take the warning shot and start changing how they behave? And if not, then other states might start filing their own SEC actions, and the federal government might start filing its own SEC actions. So just be aware that it's not just one person, because all these lawyers, prosecutors, in the Department of Justice for each state and in the federal government for the SEC, they all go to the same conferences. They all learn the same legal doctrines. They all learn the same legal definitions as to what a security is, what an investment contract is. And all of that stuff is being applied, and you can assume eventually would be applied consistently across many different jurisdictions. We're just early in this thing, and government moves slowly. So just be aware of that. Going down to the next portion there, I've been hearing from many. So this is a new, different text, I believe, separate from the one above that was forwarded. I've been hearing from my contacts at USI Tech, can't name them, but they're pretty high up, that the SEC have or will be dropping the charge against USI Tech due to lack of evidence. Folks, I mean, anything's within the realm of possibility, but I really doubt that is likely or possible. Again, they could willingly decide to drop it just because they want to drop it. They don't want to pursue it. And that would just be what we call prosecutorial discretion. They're using discretion to drop it if they want. But not having enough evidence, the fact of the matter is they took the position that these are securities and that the securities are not registered and that people are selling those things that are not licensed and registered to sell those things. The evidence is there for those factors, which is actually criminal and also carries criminal and civil penalties. So the statement about not having enough evidence really seems problematic and questionable to me. Again, anything's within the realm of possibility, but that's my take. Moving on, the case is still strong against the two affiliates. However, USI Tech are in the clear. Again, no one can say that they're in the clear. We don't know, because of the terms and conditions that the affiliates failed to comply with. That might be true, and then the government might find some of the old YouTube videos and things that USI Tech did or said or represented or whatever participated in, that the founders and owners participated in, and then the government agency could change its mind again. But I just don't see it as being because of a lack of evidence, and we certainly don't know that they are in the clear. If that were the case, I think USI Tech would immediately send out communications worldwide saying we're in the clear, because why wouldn't they? So be aware of that. And then the last thing, they are predicting full privileges to be reinstated to all back offices by the end of the week. Hopeful. I've already talked about why I think that seems suspect, why that would be problematic or difficult for USI Tech to reopen again in the U.S. Anything's within the realm of possibility, I suppose, but I've already shared my thoughts and won't belabor that point further. And again, the last red highlighted thing there, I do not know the accuracy of these statements. And that should be a mantra that we should all keep in our minds. We don't know. We're hearing rumors and conjecture and whatnot. I will say this, when any kind of investment goes down, it is very, very, very common for it to be a common strategy, or some people would use the term tactic, to put out there, hold on, just wait, don't do anything yet, hold on, just wait, we're working on it, technical difficulties, sorry our website's down, just hold on, just wait. I've seen that happen with other what are called HYIPs, HYIPs, high yield interest programs or platforms. I've seen that happen with 5 or 6 different HYIPs that have gone down, out of business, disappeared off the internet in just the last 2 months. There was Hexabot, Laser Online. There have been a number of others that just disappear, and they walk away with hundreds of millions of dollars of people's money, Chain Group is another one, and Chain Group actually had 6 or 7 different groups within it where you would invest your money, put your money in, and the money would be in for a period of time, and then at the end of the proposal was at the end of the period of time you'd get X percent back, 100, 110%, 100, 250%, whatever. And all of those different platforms, I've just watched them go down very recently. Hexabot and Laser Online went down within a week of each other. I think even possibly within a couple of days of each other. Unrelated high-up investment platforms that just went out several weeks ago. And these are things that happen consistently. And with Laser Online and Hexabot, both of them, we saw clients of mine and people involved in those things, in those investments, saw just the same kind of thing. Problems with the internet, acting weird, it's down, then it's back, then you can't log in, and eventually, poof, it's just gone. Well, with USI Tech, at least to right now, poof, they're gone because they affirmatively came out and said, hey, we're stopping. Luckily, so far, it seems that they are paying out, though I don't have confirmation from anyone yet of successful withdrawals since the announcement that they were shutting down in USA and Canada. But hopefully that will be the case. Hopefully they will continue to actually pay out. All right, that is pretty much what I wanted to cover. Again, we're here to help. I guess I'm told I'm supposed to say like and subscribe if you like the video, and please subscribe to the channel. We're here to try and help provide information, help, and resources, and then please also contact us if you're interested in that. Our services and the things we're looking at are global, are national and international. So wherever you are, please feel free to email us, and we would be happy to help you. We're here to help. Please feel free to contact us, and have a great day. Take care.